This is a hero cop, Nicholas Reardon from Columbus, Ohio. You heard about this case. He's the one who shot that 16-year-old girl who was about to kill somebody. Law enforcement, we all know, can be ugly. Even when you're doing your job well, it's ugly. But he avoided the tragedy, a far greater tragedy, by following the law, doing what he needed to do. Here's the moment. He opened fire. Can you see the knife? That's Micaiah there with the knife, Micaiah Bryant. She's 16. He can't tell she's 16, and quite frankly, it doesn't matter. She is about to stab somebody. Next picture, please. She raises her arm to plunge it into her. The officer had no other choice. Just about every law enforcement expert agrees. Oh, by the way, the cop was pretty sharp here. He had some decisions to make when he got there. Somebody else was getting their head kicked in at the same time. Which was the greater threat? Probably the knife. You see that? This was one chaotic situation. The cop made some great decisions. But the fake news, they sense an opportunity here, as does the far left.
Another police officer-involved shooting, this time in Ohio. A teenage black girl is dead.
Child in this community tragically died last night. This is a failure on part of our community.
Outrage erupting in the streets again over yet another police shooting, this time in Columbus, Ohio.
I am deeply concerned about what we are seeing all across our country.
We're going to be talking about yet another police-involved shooting.
Here we are looking at another, death of a human being on tape.
When they go like this, then you know they're really deeply, deeply affected. They're just trying to cash in. They want the crisis to continue. It's all about crisis. It's all about phony narratives. And this one is phony right there. I mean, we can all see what the cop did. Most reasonable people, we just learned about reasonable doubt, when it exists, when it doesn't, would think this cop acted reasonably, right? So why are the media treating this officer so unreasonably? Look at this from NBC Nightly News last night.
Police body cam video shows Micaiah Bryant's final moments when a Columbus, Ohio police officer responding to a call gets out of his car and seconds later fatally shoots the 16-year-old girl. Authorities say Bryant was threatening two other girls with a knife.
It's a tragedy.
All right. Did you see how they didn't put the knife in her hands? They didn't show you? I made a point to circle it. I'll do it again. That's important. They just glossed over that, ignored that she was about to plunge that knife into the girl in the pink tracksuit. That's relevant. Why are the media leaving that out? And, maybe I can't blame LeBron that much. Maybe he just got really mad when he saw the fake news. You're next. Talking about the cop that's a hero, by the way. All right. I'm giving him way too much benefit of the doubt. I know how he reads things, and LeBron is a force for division in this country.
Oh, I was so institutionalized growing up in the hood. It's like they don't with us. They don't want us to succeed. The hierarchy, and then we're here. Like, matter of fact, we're underneath this chair. So I'm like, I'm going to this school to play ball, and that's it. I don't want nothing to do with white people.
So this is the conscience right now of half of America and the far left. But even that tweet might have been too much for LeBron. He had to take it down. Was this worse? I don't know. I'm so damn tired of seeing black people killed by police. I took the tweet down because it's being used to create more hate. This isn't about one officer. It's about the entire system, and they always use our words to create more racism. I am so desperate for more accountability. Accountability. That would be great, especially in, forgive me, LeBron and everyone else, your community. No, not this community. This is where he lives now. He does very well, LeBron. He lives in a very special world most of us can only dream of. There's his mansion in Beverly Hills. I think we have a picture of him in one of his many cars. This one might be, yes, it's a Porsche. His comments are thoroughly disgusting, but only certain people can call him out. Yeah, I can give it a shot. No one can do it like Candace Owens, though. Candace Owens, the iconic truth teller. If America was a country that believed in justice, LeBron James would be stripped of all his sponsorships. Yes, he would be canceled. LeBron said he's concerned about police shooting black people. That's a concern, but a greater concern, and it's been around for decades, and it's very much here today, black people killing black people, apart from law enforcement. This is a real thing, and it has been for a long time, and hardly anybody wants to talk about it. One hero did decades ago, and he was burned for it back then. His name was Ben Ward. He was the first African-American police commissioner in New York City. Young black men, he said, are committing the genocide against the blacks. They are ripping off the neighborhoods. They are doing the shooting, killing innocent people as they fight over their drug locations. Mr. Ward was right. Arrest statistics show. That's from the New York Times. Very few people, though, could talk about these issues for long because usually they were smacked around so hard by the left they had to stop, including the President of the United States.
Too many fathers are MIA. Too many fathers are AWOL. Missing from too many lives and too many homes. They've abandoned their responsibilities. They're acting like boys instead of men. You and I know this is true everywhere, but nowhere is it more true than in the African-American community. We know that more than half of all black children live in single-parent households. We know the statistics that children who grow up without a father are 5 times more likely to live in poverty and commit crime. They're 9 times more likely to drop out of school, 20 times more likely to end up in prison.
That's powerful stuff. That kind of message from Barack Obama or from King James himself, that could really start changing lives. That could change culture. But it's a lot easier and probably more fun to rip on some cop in Columbus, Ohio. I want to tell you about a story that affected me deeply and personally right here in New York City. In late 2019, Tessa Majors, 18-year-old college student at Barnard University, one of the best colleges in the country, was stabbed to death by 3 young men. An awful crime. It took weeks to solve it, but it finally was. And those 3 young men, well, 2 of them at least, had something in common. No father. Mr. Davis, no mention of a father in any of the arrest records. For Mr. Weaver there, his father was in prison. And also this, because New York City is now a liberal town governed by a liberal mayor, he wasn't really down with the police and had been disrespecting them in big ways and small. This observation was made because law enforcement wasn't seen as a solution. It was seen as a hindrance. Major's death shouldn't have happened. It was the culmination of a pattern that should have been disrupted. For 2019, up until the eve of her murder, Morningside Park, where it happened, had experienced 20 robberies, nearly triple the number of the previous year. The demonization of cops that's happening nationwide started here in New York City, and it's sad. And the celebration of criminals now is very, very fashionable. Dante Wright, 20 years old, had plenty of time to straighten out his life, but at the time of his arrest, yes, he was a criminal. It's really unfortunate what happened. That police made a terrible mistake, that police officer. He also made a terrible mistake in trying to run away and resisting arrest. But now, his funeral today, he's being treated like a head of state. Have you seen a funeral like this lately? This was big. All kinds of civil rights leaders, politicians, Al Sharpton himself. This funeral would not have been necessary, though, had Dante Wright not chosen to do this.
Don't you just stop, bro. Don't do it. Don't do it.
All right. Horrible mistake was made, but if only he hadn't run. I used to say this was a silly conversation about race in America. Now it's a dangerous conversation about race in America, omitting and overlooking some basic truths that need to be reinforced, sadly enough. Don't run from the cops. Graduate from high school. Get married, stay married.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV.